Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for having me, and welcome to The Merge. This is going to have a little look at the future of humanity and technology and how they are intrinsically related and how they are coming together. Now, if we talk about technology, we have to talk about the pace in which technology is changing. And Ray Kurzweil, who's the Director of Engineering for Google, said this recently: "It's not the case that we will experience 100 years of progress in the 21st century. Rather, we will witness on the order of 20,000 years of progress." And that's, of course, because of exponential progress within technology. So it's going to feel like if in 10 years' time we look back to where we are now and we observe the technological landscape, it will feel to us like magic has occurred. And that's all within the next foreseeable 10 to 15 years. But it's not technology that's driving us forward. The real driver behind this is us. It's consumer power, it's humanity. Technology is merely the liberator of the advancement. But what we can do when we look at technology, and we can look at the history of technology and understand which technologies have been successful and which ones have faded away, we can start to see a pattern. We can start to see that technology has a leaning, it has a bias. And that bias is to do with abundance. So successful technology is technology that unshackles us, that moves us one step further in this journey to abundance. And what we mean by abundance here is freedom of everything spontaneously, the ability to place me anywhere, with anyone, with anything, right now. And that's what we mean by abundance. So anything that brings us further into that reality, or into that path, is the direction in which successful technology is going to travel. So we can observe this path from technology in the past, and it means we can see its future. We can plot out its path for the future. And we can now start to see exactly where that path is going with technology, and it's heading directly towards us. So we are becoming closer and closer with our technology. We're becoming more inseparable from it. We have it about us all the time. And it's going to get to the point where technology and humanity come so close together that we will both virtually and physically merge. So we're going to look at the 5 stages that is going to lead us up to this point. And this point is probably around 35 years away. But we're going to look at where it came from, and then we're going to look exactly where we are within this. So these are the 5 stages that will take us to that merge. So the first stage was around 1950 to 1995. Now this is the birth of home computing. So this is where we started to see the invention of the personal computer and the adoption in home. But also another significant event in this period was the invention of the World Wide Web. So not only did we have computing power in the home, but we also had a connecting layer that joined all of those together. The second period within this journey, which we're calling organizing, is really about taking all of that hardware that was built, the infrastructure of stage 1, and turning into something incredibly useful, so starting to organize that information that's now being surfaced up to us through the web. So the 3 major events that happened in the organizing stage was, first of all, in 1995. So Windows 95 launched, and it coupled it with Internet Explorer, making access to the World Wide Web even easier. The next phase was Google, of course. It meant that all of this information that was being created and stored in pockets was now available and findable by everyone. And then the third major stage was in about 2007, or 2007, when Apple launched its first iPhone. And it took everything that we had in a certain area in the room, in our computer, and put it about our person. So now we are becoming even more inseparable from our technology. So they're the 3 major parts of stage 2, so organizing the world's information. And then the third stage, which is where we find ourselves now, which ran from about 2010 and will continue to about 2025. This is what we're calling extracting. So this is where we're extracting new meaning from web services. Now we'll see the continuation of stage 2. We'll see greater internet access and faster speeds and better technologies in our phones and so on. But the real defining part of stage 3 will be data and machine learning. And it's going to lead to the creation of new technologies and new behaviors in humanity. And we're going to explore that in a little bit more depth, but we're just for a moment going to future scope into stages 4 and 5 for a moment. So stage 4 is where we get to anticipating. So I mentioned in stage 3 we've got machine learning algorithms. So effectively algorithms that are learning faster and completing tasks better than humans can do, self-learning algorithms. In stage 4 we'll have deep learning algorithms. And this is where we'll create algorithms that can accomplish tasks beyond that which we program them to achieve. And at this stage, we'll enter this anticipation era, where they can start anticipating behaviours before we've even exhibited them or realised them ourselves. And then the 5th stage and the final chapter on the merge is called elevating. And as I said, we're anticipating this to be around 35 years away. And this is where everything is going to combine. So artificial general intelligence will be ubiquitous. We'll have nanotech, biotech, quantum computing, where through whatever guise it might be, through any of those things, through implants, through anything, humanity and technology will merge, and beyond this, prediction breaks down. This is called the singularity. This means that we will no longer be able to make predictions for what might come, because we'll enter a period of time that we can't even begin to imagine right now. So we're going to now look at exactly where we are on this journey, and as I said, we're in stage 3, and we're going to explore some of the technologies that are coming out as we see out the remaining 8 or 7 years of stage 3 together. But before we look at those technologies, the undercurrent principle and current behind all of this is data. So this stat from the International Data Corporation last year said that only 0.5% of data is being used. Now, if we think about what data we are sitting on in our organisations and what insight that might lead to, or what new products that might allow us to construct, is kind of mind-blowing. But the reason why we're not very good at making use of all this data is because data and big data was never really the food for humans. Big data was always the food for machines and for machine learning algorithms. So everything within the technologies that we're going to explore now has data and machine learning algorithms as its undercurrent, as its core behind it all. So we've got 9 areas to briefly talk about. So I'm going to go through these 9 technologies that we're going to start to see more of as we progress through this period of time. So the first one is chatbots. Now, any of us that have had an experience with automated services have probably felt rather underwhelmed and frustrated. And that's because they're not good enough yet. But with data, with machine learning to make real sense of language and semantics and meaning, not just words, meaning, then interactions with chatbots is going to become incredibly useful. And organizations will have chatbots that embody their personality, but are also the gateway to everything within their brand world. So we're going to see these. And this is probably one of the key entry points for stage 3 in the merge. The next one, actually, sorry, I'll just give you a quick example from Google on their chatbot.
How can I help? I'd like delivery from Panera.
Hi, this is Panera. I'll need your delivery address. Which one can I get from Google?
We'll go with 1600 Amphitheater.
What can I get you started with?
I'll have the strawberry poppy seed salad with steak instead of chicken.
Got it. How about one of these cold drinks?
And here I can just swipe through my options, see what looks good. Agave lemonade.
Great. Are you ready to check out?
Yep.
Okay. The total is $18.40. Are you ready to place the order?
Yes. I'll just scan my fingerprint to pay with Google, and that's it.
So there you go, a very simple example of how a chatbot can be a key interface for a brand that can converse in natural language. And when you link it to purchase technologies as well, it makes the process incredibly seamless. So the second one is Messenger Concierge. So we're quite used to messenger services at the moment. But here will be an opportunity for brands to enter in a non-intrusive way. Again, at the moment, when brands enter conversations, we can feel it's quite intrusive and we're not okay with it. But when it's serving a utility, when it's enhancing an experience, that's when we'll become forgiving of it and accepting of it and offer an opportunity for brands. So what this might mean, for example, is I might be having a conversation with a friend. We might be talking about a new movie that's coming out. And it might be a cinema brand is able to come into this and say, that film is playing at 8:30 tonight in your local cinema. Would you like me to book 2 tickets? And you can just say yes, and it's done. The transaction is taken care of. They've got your bank details, your card details. You can process it to it. You can email your tickets directly to you. So again, another entry point for brands and organizations to enter this tech data layer world. And if we combine these together, we get to the third stage, which is our next generation VPA, or virtual personal assistant. And the VPA is something that will feel like a bridge to the external world. So this might be something that we might converse naturally to, and we will start to outsource many of our decision-making processes to our technology, whether it's our phone, or whether it's a watch, or whether it's an earpiece, or whatever the guise, the physical item is. We'll start conversing with it naturally, and it will take care of many of the tasks. So for example, I flew over here yesterday. Something like a virtual personal assistant might notice that I'm stuck in traffic, it might know that I'm going to get to the airport late, it might know I'll miss the flight. And then it can start handling those tasks for me. So it can tell me, right, I've rebooked you on the flight afterwards, I've changed your taxi at the other end, I've informed your boss's VPA that you're going to be late for that first meeting, I've rearranged your hotel booking. And so all of these services, which I can do manually, and there are online services for me to alter them myself, it's now going to start to take care of it, because it will link all of those separate component parts and bring it together. So it will feel like that bridge has been built between me and all of those external services. And then the fourth is ambient AI. And this is devices, again, that you can speak naturally into. And we've started to see these with Google Home and Amazon Echo. But it won't just exist as a speaker in your kitchen. They'll start to be built into every single electronic device. So Kevin Kelly, the founder of Wired magazine, said that everything that we formerly electrified, we will now start to cognify. So we'll start to put intelligence into electronic devices, and they will be consistent across them. So I might talk to my fridge to get it to update my grocery shop when certain things are low, or I might get in the car and it will be the same service, and I can naturally have all of my data connecting. So that's ambient AI, and we're seeing a huge boom in this, and I'm sure we've all seen the stats of how these devices are growing hugely. Now, the next few that we're going to look at are all related to wearables. Now, we're very familiar with wearables now, whether it's a watch, we've seen Google Glass come and go, but we're going to see the next generation of wearables that generate or provide a real functional benefit and add additional services to us that we will ultimately not be able to leave behind. So the first one to talk about is the smart ring. So as I said, we're comfortable with watches. The next thing is going to get smaller and smaller. It'll be a ring that we can talk into discreetly. Now this might be able to, through NFC technology, open doors, unlock passwords, and so on. It might have a microphone, but it can also do all of the tracking, heart rate. It might peer into the blood system to look at hydration levels, to look at glucose levels. So it's going to be more than just a tracking device. It's going to be also our VPA, as it were, that we can talk discreetly into our hands to converse with. But it's not just wearables that we're talking about here. We're also talking about hearables. So hearables, the prediction is that hearables will be worth about $5 billion by the end of this year. And an example that we've got from Doppler Labs here, hearables might be something that we can place in our ear, and it can offer real-time translation services. It can mute conversations that are going on nearby. But this Doppler Labs, this is an example of one that doesn't even use a device in the ear. It will be tracked from your hand, and just by placing your fingertip into your ear, it can converse. It's called bone input. So it channels the sound through, so you don't even have to wear unsightly devices. You can just use your fingertips. So we're going to see a lot more hearable devices coming through over the coming few years. The seventh of the 9 pieces of technology is called intelligent layers. So this is where, with the ubiquity of screen access, we often talk about second screening. Now we're going to have dual first screening. So intelligent layers is adding additional layers over the top of existing screen time. So it might be that I can pause any screen, I can tap it, I can surface up new information directly on it rather than doing it on a second screen. So I might be able to find out, for example, what the lead character in a movie is wearing, or where I can buy similar apparel to what that character is wearing, or find out more information on the movie or other films by that director. So adding that additional layer into existing screen time, and that's what we're calling intelligent layers. Then number 8 is first generation mixed realities. This is where we're bringing augmented reality, virtual reality, and those data layers, and bringing it all into one. And Magic Leap is a key technology company that's advancing this. And I'll show you a quick clip of what this means. So instead of just applying additional layers onto screen time, it will be applying additional layers onto reality. So whether that's in the form of wearing smart glasses, or ultimately a contact lens, or perhaps even an implant, we'll start to allow digital and virtual information over the top of our real reality. And this is how it might look. So it gives you a sense of what we might be talking about here. We're applying the virtual world on top of the real world. And then the final one in this stage is what we're calling the VR web. And this is where our existential crisis or our existential anxiety is probably going to be dialed up to the maximum. And what we mean by the VR web is where we are creating parallel virtual worlds that we will ultimately spend perhaps as much time in the virtual worlds as we will in the physical world. Now that, of course, sounds ludicrous right now. It sounds scary, but it will be happening because it will be offering benefits to us beyond that which we can imagine currently. If we imagine something like a Facebook right now, which, if we analyze it, is really like a two-dimensional screen where you have access to friends and information. But if you imagine in a three-dimensional virtual world where you can, this is that journey of abundance, if we can sit inside this virtual world with any of our friends from anywhere around the world, with anything, then that offers a real benefit. And we will ultimately recede from the physical world more into the virtual world because we'll have greater access to the things that seem important to us. And this is where our existential crisis is going to start kicking in because we're not going to be sure the benefits of one and how we balance our time, all to be explored. And all of these technologies we're likely to be seeing as we see out the remaining 7 or 8 years of stage 3. So this isn't far away. So these are the 9 that we've talked about. And if we were to talk about what we need to start doing right now as organizations or as marketing departments of organizations, there are probably 5 things. Now, all of these 5, without going into a huge amount of detail behind them, relate to 2 things. 1, getting data strategies ready. And 2, progressing with creativity and innovation. So those 2 cannot be separated. We cannot go purely down a data layer without the creativity layer. But the 5 stages that we're talking about is building out ad and marketing technology stacks, investing in knowledge management, so how to create cognitive layers against existing assets, starting to build integration into those speakers and ambient technologies, building close ties with those innovative companies that can lead our organizations into this next stage. And then finally, preparing a strategy for virtual reality and mixed reality world. What does our brand world look like in that virtual world? So we're not just a 2-dimensional entity like a website, but we're a 3-dimensional world with our own rules. What do our brand rules look like in that virtual space? So that's what organizations need to do right now. Hopefully I have not thrown your existential anxiety too far to the maximum, but that is the merge, and we'll see that all through together over the next 35 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Devoy. Sorry, I have one concern.
Yes.
I know you were talking about the gap between us and technologies, but isn't the gap between people who do understand and know the technologies and can use them and benefit from them is very big if we talk about the other people? Like, don't they feel abandoned in this world of technology?
I think there's a real danger of that. I mean, I think with the progression of technology happening faster than the pace of generational change, it does mean we are going to create a much bigger gap. And there will be technology rejectors, just as there are now. But the gap between the technology rejector and the technology native, I guess, will feel a lot bigger.
And it is a question of power, actually.
I mean, there's a huge amount of political, moral issues in relation to this. Yeah, I mean, power we've seen with cases like Facebook right now in Cambridge Analytica, where power exists and how it can be used. And I think there is going to have to be a lot of catching up, I think, from governments with technology companies in order to balance that out. But yeah, power is a big thing.
Can the politics and politicians at one point will say just stop it? That's where we stop, and we don't understand the thing, and the questions in the commission already show that the politicians just don't get it.
Yeah.
And maybe they will say just stop it. That's where we stop.
See, I personally feel that the technology companies are going to advance so much faster than legislation that power will ultimately, in that space, rest with those tech giants. So I think policy will play catch-up. I mean, we've seen it with social media, where we're trying to figure out what the rules are on YouTube in terms of what can you show, what can't you show, and what data you can have in this whole Facebook scandal, that these tech giants are progressing faster than legislation. So how we address that, how politicians address that, how governments address it, is a very deeply interesting topic, but they are certainly playing catch-up at the moment.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here's a little nice present
very much.
from the organizers. Thank you.